What's up, crowdfunders? Salvador Brigman here with the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast and the Crowdfunding Demystified YouTube channel. And I'm relaxing here in my home in Brooklyn, New York. I'm having my Dunkin' Donuts coffee, as you can see. I grew up actually in Massachusetts, and if you've ever been to New England or you live in New England, Dunkin' Donuts coffee is actually like a really big deal there. It's like a staple, kind of like Starbucks is a staple here in New York. Dunkin' Donuts is like a really big deal in Boston. So this is kind of like nostalgic for me, but this is gonna get me through this entire YouTube video. This is like what powers me. And I think that you're actually gonna like this video because one of the most frequent questions that I get is, where do Kickstarter pledges come from? Why do people decide to back campaigns? But more importantly, how do they discover your campaign? If you're looking to launch a Kickstarter campaign, where are those backers gonna come from? And I'm gonna discuss that and more in this YouTube video. So the first thing that I wanna say is that there's a very big difference between running a Kickstarter campaign for a creative project, like you're trying to raise money to publish a new book, you're trying to raise money for a new film, or you're trying to raise money to put on a theater project. That is a very different type of campaign than an entrepreneur who's looking to raise money for a technology gadget, for some kind of gizmo, maybe a design product of some kind. These are two very different types of Kickstarter campaigns. What I mean by that is, not only the backer is gonna be different, not only is the marketing gonna be different, but also the sources of pledges are going to be different. So let's first talk about the creative types out there. So you're looking to raise money for a play, theater project, something along those lines, an artistic or a creative project. What should you know before you do that? Well, first of all, I did a really great podcast episode with Alexandra Castro, who is an up-and-coming actress. She's one of my friends. She raised money for a theater project, and she ended up raising about $10,000 on Kickstarter. Actually, a little bit over that, I believe. And I'll link to that episode of the podcast in the show notes. And also, maybe I'll even put it here in the YouTube channel so you can check it out. But basically, all of her pledges came from her friends, her family, second-degree connections, professional connections, and there were one or two strangers who she didn't really know, but were friends of friends of friends who ended up giving money to her Kickstarter campaign. So I do think that this is actually a mold for many of the creative entrepreneurs out there. I've had lots and lots of people on my podcast, the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast, who have come on and said, yeah, you know, most of my pledges came from my friends and my family and my second degree connections. I was kind of surprised by that. And the reason there is, this is really, I think, the crux of why creative projects are funded on Kickstarter. It's a technology platform that enables you to raise funds from these people in your life that care about what you're doing. And naturally, if you have developed some type of a following, if you have readers, if you have people who are looking for your next project, who want to watch that next movie that you're going to create, yeah, those people are also likely to pledge. But for those of you out there who don't have any kind of audience, you really do have to drive your own pledges if you're doing a creative project. Think of this as a way to bring your network together, to show them that you're serious about a project and that you're gonna take it to the whole nother level with this new Kickstarter campaign. The second type of project, those people out there that are entrepreneurs, that are looking to raise money for a gadget or a gizmo. I've talked with lots of these entrepreneurs, not just on my podcast, but also on kickstarterforum.org. And I started that forum, I think like a little over 3 years ago, so it's been a while. But I've conversed and talked with lots of people on the forum. I've also talked with lots of people on the forum, crowdfunding forum, which I'm a joint owner of, and also with my blog. So I have talked with many, many, many entrepreneurs. And the reason I put that out there is because there are conceptions that you can just launch a project on Kickstarter and it's instantly gonna be funded. And that's not true. Most of these entrepreneurs will have a very dedicated and a very specific pre-launch strategy before the campaign goes live. So what they do is they gather a base of core supporters. And this is actually similar to the creative types. So they gather a base of core supporters via their email list, via their social profiles, building up those social profiles, and also people that have a vested interest in their business, who already they care about what that entrepreneur is doing. And they're willing to pledge in the first 3 days of that Kickstarter campaign. And basically, by having this critical mass of a crowd, by bringing the crowd to crowdfunding, they then are able to jump really high in the platform's rankings. And once they do that, they start to get exposure to other backers that are out there, regular Kickstarter backers. These are people that like supporting new projects, that are early adopters, and that are willing to try something out. So once they have that core mass of an audience, they hit their funding goal usually within the first 3 days. They set a very low funding goal, and then they start to gather more and more people from the Kickstarter platform to actually support their project. But that's not all. So some of these projects that I've interviewed will literally get like 90% of their pledges just from Kickstarter. So yes, it is a marketplace. Kickstarter is absolutely a marketplace where there are buyers and there are sellers. So yes, you can obviously engage these buyers, get them interested in your project, and just with that critical mass, you have a very successful campaign. But more often than not, the entrepreneurs that come on my podcast usually have a dual strategy. So yes, they have the core critical mass of friends and family, of supporters. Yes, they do end up raking in Kickstarter backers, regular super backers, but they also will engage in paid advertising. They'll go on podcasts, they'll do guest blog posts, they'll leverage PR and media hits to build the credibility of their campaign, to get more people interested, converting from these various sites around the web to come in and check out the campaign, maybe back it, or maybe just decide to share it on their social network. So this is really a multi-tiered and a multi-pronged approach. If I had to choose what the best ROI is for those entrepreneurs that I've had on my podcast, I'd have to say that the biggest source of pledges usually comes from your email list. So these are people that have decided to hand over their email address and they want updates about your campaign, or they want a discount, or they want to be an early backer. Those people are usually the most likely to take action through that email list. So the first ROI I'd say is email list. Usually that's in the pre-launch phase. The second I would say is the Kickstarter Marketplace. If you do have a product that actually resonates, people want this product, then they're gonna check it out. 3, paid advertising. Paid advertising has gotten really big in the last 2 years. Not just paid advertising on niche sites like CrowdCrux, my blog offers paid advertising, not just through these smaller sites, but on Facebook. Really making sure to get a very definitive and specific target audience that you're honing in on and converting those people to backers. Facebook advertising is a really big source of pledges for creators, at least in the last year that I've noticed. And also on other sources and other social media networks, people will engage in paid advertising. Next, I'd have to say it's PR. So PR is actually a really fascinating subject, and I'll include a link to a video that I talked about exclusively on how to get journalists to write about you, how to get media attention, how do you convert that media attention into pledges, all that kind of stuff I'll talk about on this other video. But PR is an amazing tool for reaching other audiences. So for example, I run a podcast. I have an audience who listen to that podcast regularly. You as an entrepreneur, as a creator, might not have a very large audience, but if you provide value, you can access the audience of influencers and people who do have an audience. And that's PR, in my opinion, that's part of PR. So there are media hits, there are being cited on major media publications, or being talked about and reviewed by bloggers and Instagram influencers, and even reviewed by YouTubers. but there's also coming on and sharing your story or being useful or being entertaining in some way on people's shows or on people's podcasts or whatever it is. So you use this strategy to reach new audiences and you bring them into the fold. Not everyone's gonna obviously like your campaign, not everyone's gonna decide to check it out, but you will get more backers if you go with that multi-tiered, multi-pronged approach. Those are the major sources of pledges that I myself have noticed entrepreneurs and creative types tapping into on Kickstarter. I'm sure in the next few years we're gonna see more different sources. I personally think that in the future, hey, there could be people who translate from Snapchat very easily to Kickstarter. It's really gonna be very interesting to see how these sources change and mold over time. Even only recently, I think Facebook advertising has been tapped in the last 2 years as a major source of pledges. So it's very cool to me to watch this transition and watch how things are changing. But I'd love to hear if you have any questions. I went over these in a very high level. I think I'm gonna go more in depth into each of these topics with other YouTube videos, but I'd love to hear if you have any questions. So do me a favor, leave a comment down below and let me know, what is your question? What are you looking to launch on Kickstarter? What questions you have about getting pledges, about getting backers? Let me know via comment down below. And also, if you did enjoy this video, give me a thumbs up. That way other people who come to this channel will know, hey, this isn't just a crazy guy who likes Dunkin' Donuts and rattles on about himself or whatever. Let other people know that these are useful videos by giving me a thumbs up. And lastly, if you do want to receive more content like this to your email inbox to get notifications on your phone, be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel because I do put out a lot of content. I'm trying to put out at least 3 videos for you guys every single week on various topics. So I'm working hard here to bring great content to you, both with my blog, the podcast, and this YouTube channel. Again, my name is Salvador Brickman. I hope you enjoyed this YouTube video, and I'll see you next time.